The second type is called easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. Have you heard that saying before? So how does that apply in our regular life? Easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Show up late rather than saying, can I show up later?
Oh yeah, that's a good example. So but not to class, obviously.
Right,
You show up late rather than calling and saying, "Hey, is it cool if I'm a little bit late?" Or like if I open the cupboard and there's a cookie in there, rather than asking my wife, "Hey, do you want that last cookie in the cupboard?" I just eat the cookie. That's not a real life example. That's just pretend. That never happened.
right.
So if an error happens, then what do we do? So we're just going ahead with the code in this case, and we're actually gonna let the error happen. So this is what it looks like. Easier to ask for permission, or EAFP. Easier to ask for forgiveness for short. In this case, I'm doing the same thing, same operation, different approach to the error, and I'm using the try and accept keywords, which we'll get into in just a minute. But basically what this says is we're going to have the user enter a number, and then we're going to try this stuff. And if this works, cool. We just move on with our life. If it doesn't, if it generates an exception or an error, then we're going to tell the user this instead of the program crashing. So if I say enter a number and they say Bill, and it goes to convert it, it's gonna make an error right here. At this point where it makes the error, it says, uh-oh, we're inside a try block. I'm gonna jump down to here and do this. So it skips that part, and this never happens because it generates an error. Okay? So try and accept is a way of allowing errors to happen in your program, so to speak, but having it not crash your program. Instead, it does something intelligent. So let's just take a quick look at that.
Remember the variables for rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many errors.
Okay, so if I do that, enter a number, and I want to convert that to a number from a string, right? If I say int number equals int, and I say str number, and then I print int number plus 5. Okay, so that's a simple program. I got to run the right program here. If I run the right program, it says enter a number, and if I enter 10, then it prints out 10 plus 5, which is 15. That's all good. But if I don't enter a number, if I enter a word instead, then it gives me what's called a value error. Okay, so this is the exception, and this is the error type, and this is the specific error message. But basically, you can't change that to an int.
That's what I kept getting with my rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, because you were trying to turn it into an int. So if I want this to work properly without an error, then I can put that in a try and accept block just like this. And now, if I enter a number or a non-number here, it just gives me the message. And that's the same code that just before generated an error. But this line, if I enter something that's non-numeric, is going to generate an error, which causes the program to jump to the accept block and run this code. And now if I had something after this, and if I enter a number, you can see it does what it's supposed to in the try block, and then it skips to the end. If I enter something that's non-numeric, then it does the accept block and then skips to the end. So that is how the program flow works. It's not all that different than try or than if and else, except for one thing. If you have a try, you must have an accept, and both of them have to have indented code beneath them. So that's an important thing to remember.